What's up, everybody? We're on a podcast now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Resident Evil Requiem. I'm glad I let this go. Yesterday, the trailer, I want to talk about that a little bit in this video, but saw it, loved it, and then, I actually kind of forgot that today the embargoes would lift, and we would see all of this, Stalker footage, basically, is what we got, and so I feel like now is a good time, to make a video. Look, I wasn't there, I wasn't able to play it, but I watched a couple different previews, and it seems like it's only like a 20-minute demo, right? So like while one person's footage they were able to record, I think that is a difference versus Summer Game Fest. Summer Game Fest, they were able to play it, but they weren't actually able to like take it home with them. So the footage we got 2 months ago was the same. The opinions could differ, but what we actually saw was the same no matter who you saw it from, right? Now, technically the footage is different depending on who. Like I tried to watch PlayStation Access, and I watched IGN, I watched Punished. So I tried to watch a couple different ones. But I mean, look, again, it's a 20-minute. You're going from point A, finding a thing that will unlock the next thing. Then that thing will give you something, and you use that thing for the third thing. It's pretty, standard Resident Evil stuff. So really, what you're actually seeing from one person to the next, again, doesn't change all that much here. But my impressions are just this game is going to be so freaking unbelievable. You think about GTA next year, there is like 10 different games next year that I think can be like masterpieces or game of the year type games. Even beyond GTA, I think there'll be like 10 plus games, and this is one of them. One thing I want to talk about, in terms of even that trailer we saw yesterday, kind of leading into today. I'm pretty impressed with their reluctance to show us really all that much about the game. Now, I think Dusk Golem did say what we saw today is very early. Like, the gameplay that's being shown around is very early. I think it's within the first hour of the game is what he said. Now, IGN, in their preview, even talked about, like, they don't even know if this thing is going to be in the base game. I feel like it will. I mean, yeah, there's evidence in terms of, like, history of Resident Evil and Capcom that indicate that might not be true. I mean, they have made basically fake demos before, or just demos you can experience but that actually don't make it into the base game. Yes, that's true, but Dusk Golem feels like he knows what he's talking about with RE9 right here, so I'm going to believe him. I'm going to assume, it's just within the first hour. But that, again, to even the trailer yesterday, that's what makes me, like, even more excited, because beyond even just visually this game looking amazing, I love how tense it is. I love the lighting. I love everything about it, and it could only be within the first, like, hour. You even see, Grace and her mom and that whole situation. I feel like that's kind of gutsy, too, to show. I mean, they're leading directly up to her death, right? And really, you go back to Summer Game Fest, and again, even the footage that people were able to play there, and the trailer, and it's all very, like, it just all feels very direct, like this is the beginning of the game. There really feels like there's not a lot of stuff in any of the trailers, any of the gameplay that is like past like 2 or 3 hours into this game, which I think is nuts. By the way, may I just say, this makes it even more dirty what they were talking about in the first trailer, right? Because they know what happened to her and her mom. They know the location. They know what it did to her, and now we know that she was literally freaking standing there, right in front as it happened. So I feel like in retrospect, that first trailer was making it a little bit more mysterious, right? Like you didn't know sequence of events, and like, was she actually there? Did she find out about her mom's death? There were a couple things that were a little open. Now you're filling in the gaps, but now it's even more disturbing from like her boss's perspective that they're going to force her to do this task when they know that she literally was there the night this all happened. And then just as to the rest of that first trailer, I know I saw a couple people talking about it. I want to throw it in as well. I like transitions. I think transitions really something we got like as we entered the PS4 and Xbox One era. Really, I feel like Uncharted's and The Last of Us, like Naughty Dog, did a really good job at almost ushering it in. The idea that you would have this cutscene and, the character turns their back. You remember like Uncharted 4's demo and all that stuff. This is one of the coolest transitions when Grace and Alyssa are talking, and then she grabs her hand and it just immediately shifts to, well, it goes like into first person. They open the door and all of a sudden, it's gameplay all of a sudden. So there's cuts there, like afterwards, like they clearly, they go down some halls, I assume. There's probably lightning or something that scares them, even though it's nothing until it actually becomes something later, right? They cut out some of the probably things that are going to build the intensity, right? And then let it go and build and let it go. But I love that transition from cutscene to gameplay. I think that's really, really clever. And then things start to pick up, right? That guy being like smothered, that's terrifying. Just the way it's done, I think, like the game looks visually amazing. And sometimes I forget like just how good Resident Evil games look. But even this, and I remember seeing from some of the people that did the previews, like everybody seems to say, yes, it's better looking than the other games, but what really makes it stand out, it's the lighting. And lighting, I mean, it even affects the Stalker enemy, right? We know like turning on lights and it entering rooms with lights, it actually visibly burns its skin, which is outrageous, right? So like you have that visual, or you have that payoff, I guess, like being able to actually trap it or kick it out of a room if you turn on a light. But that seems accurate to me because, again, just from like a basic eye test, it does look better. But then you say, okay, well, what actually makes it a little bit better? I think it really is the lighting. And the other, I'd say, main thing that stood out to me through all of this stuff is really how Grace reacts. I'm a big fan. I like that you don't have to have it in a game, okay, but I can appreciate it when it is in a game. The idea of, these gasps and these kind of freeze moments, and we know from these gameplay, right, first person and third person is actually different. There have been impressions of like, hey, this moment is literally better in first person to third because that, some of that intensity just isn't there from one mode to the next, and it generally is third person, right? But then Capcom has talked about there's actually exclusive things in third person mode. The idea of when Grace is slipping and falling all the time, right? That doesn't happen in first person mode. It actually only happens in third person, which is super, super cool. And I saw a couple clips of maybe it's when the Stalker originally like enters through the door, or it cuts you off at one point, and Grace just like freezes. She freezes and she raises, her hands to her face, and then she starts to kind of scream and panic, like, why are you doing this? Why are you here? And she turns around and walks away, or runs away, technically. And that stuff I love because we've gotten Stalker enemies before. It's nothing necessarily new. Now, obviously, they're doing it a little bit different than ever before, and I can appreciate that, and I love it. This Stalker enemy looks unbelievably scary, and you see it a little bit in some of these previews. I saw one that's like the X-rated version where the death animation, IGN cuts it off, but like the monster will bite her head off, and you see a good amount of that red stuff that comes out of you. You see it would get a video blocked, basically, if you post that online, and that's a death animation. So it's like, oh my dear God, the game goes for it. The game looks terrifying. It looks really good. It looks that believability, again, in terms of how she acts. She honestly even sounds like it's tough to say, without playing the entire game. Like, I feel like I'm gonna like her. I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, she seems believable. You can make a bad character in that way where she's almost like too scared, but this is probably that classic, like, she is a wimp. She's she's not used to that environment, right? That's kind of what the trailer with her mom was signifying. She freezes, she cries, she's literally scared. Then she's gonna see her mom be killed in front of her. Then she's gonna have to go back there, and she's gonna be strung up and have blood be taken from her. So she's gonna grow up really fast, I guess is what I'm saying. And I like that, because I want that believability. I want that almost relatableness, if that's a word, right? To be able to say, okay, I get why you're, like, you should act like that. You should act like you're terrified. But at the same time, like, you have to pull yourself together and, like, put that fuse in a box, right? To get to the next room. Like, you have to do that. So I think that should make her probably, hopefully, a better character because of it. And then hopefully when we see Leon, kind of the other side, this, like, grizzled veteran who has no, like, S's left to give, right? Like, he's ready to freaking rock. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.